start this.
Good afternoon, everyone. And let me be well, maybe not the first, but wish an early happy holidays because we have Thanksgiving coming up next week. And Mark will remind us at the end of the meeting, we don't have a meeting next month. So this is our swan song for 2025. So welcome to our November meeting. Today, we'll have some welcome and housekeeping items from Mark, along with some public comments and the Public Service Commission updates. We have a presentation today from Kara Penoyer and Jacob Pankratz on the task force recommendations and how they impact policymakers. And then we're going to have about an hour and 15 minutes for a group discussion led by Jessica, and then some next steps from Mark before we wrap up. So without further ado, I can turn it over to Mark to kick us off on welcome, housekeeping, public comments, and PSC updates. Mark.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Great to see everybody. Thanks for attending. Welcome to the Governor's Task Force on Broadband Access. Today is Wednesday, November 19th. 2025. I would just like to remind everyone that this is a public meeting and that's being recorded. A meeting agenda is available on the Public Service Commission's events calendar and also on the task force webpage. In an effort to maintain audio quality, please mute yourself when not speaking. I also ask that any members of the public be mindful of their audio and remain muted throughout the duration of the meeting other than during the public comment period. I'll go ahead and do roll call for those that are members of the Governor's Task Force on Broadband Access. Bob Abrams?
Here.
Thanks, Bob. I know you jumped on that other link, so appreciate it. Biko Baker, Kwame Barnes,
present.
Thank you, Kwame. Marta Bechtel,
here.
Thank you, Marta. Brittany Beyer,
Here.
Thank you. Sal Carranza,
Here.
Thanks, Sal. Lori Collins,
Here.
Thanks, Lori. Angie Dickinson. Emily Dittmar, let me know she would not be able to attend today. Russ Falkenberg also let me know you'll not be able to attend today. Chris Herjong. Gail Hike.
Here.
Thanks, Gail. Barbara Coles, let me know she'll not be able to attend today. Chris Meyer.
Here.
Thanks, Chris. State Senator Mark Miner staff. Jose Martinez. State Representative Mersauer staff. State Senator Radcliffe or staff. And State Senator Paff or staff. And I believe I saw she was on. Mike Rave.
Present.
Thanks, Mike. Rachel Shemlin.
Present.
Thank you, Rachel. Steve Schneider, let me know you'll not be able to attend today. Michelle Schuler also let me know she'll not be able to attend today. Brett Schuppner.
Here.
Thank you, Brett. Josh Shell, let me know he would not be able to attend today. Chet Streeb and State Representative Udall let me know they won't be able to attend today. And then Chad Young also let me know he would not be able to attend today. I do not believe I missed anyone, but if I did, could you please let me know now? All right, I'll keep an eye on that. All right, Chris, if it's okay, I'll go straight into public comment and then give the short PSC update.
Yep, go ahead.
All right, thanks. Now is the time where we allow for public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to make a comment during this meeting. Members of the public may soon unmute and make a public comment should they desire. I do ask that the public comments remain brief and also pertain to the subject of broadband access. You may also utilize the chat function in Zoom to let us know you would like to make a public comment as well. I will ask for public comment now. Second call for public comment. And last call for public comment. Hearing none. As a note, written public comment is also accepted on an ongoing basis. We have direction on how to do so on our task force webpage, along with other information like meeting agendas, recordings, and updates. So I'll just go ahead and jump into PSC updates right now. We have no slides today. It's very short and brief. As some of you may have heard, NTIA announced yesterday approval of 18 BEAD final proposals. Wisconsin is not one of them, but we are hopeful again that they'll be meeting that December 4th deadline they have given themselves to give our approval and as we continue with the cures. So that is all I have for PSC updates. Are there any questions? No questions? All right, I'll throw it over to you, Chris, to get us to the rest of the agenda.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mark. Next on the agenda is a presentation. We have 30 minutes scheduled for this. This is going to be a presentation, again, titled How Task Force Report Recommendations Impact Policymakers. We have two presenters today, Kara Panoyer who's the Public Service Commission Chief of Staff, and Jacob Pankratz, the Governor's Policy Director, will be presenting. After the presentation, we'll have a Q&A that will be led by Alyssa. And so I can hand it over to Kara and Jacob.
Thanks, Chris. I will let Jacob, are you? Oh, there you are. I'll let you go first, Jacob.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
can.
Okay, thanks. These are new earbuds. I just had to make sure. Hey everyone, thanks for inviting me to your meeting. I have definitely watched your meetings streamed in the past, so honored to be invited to speak a little bit about your work and how it informs the governor's policy agenda. So as Chris had mentioned, I'm the governor's policy director. The governor has a small policy team here that really works as first point of contact with state agencies. We review legislation, and then we meet often with stakeholders and outside orgs who want to talk to our office. But I've had the broadband as part of my portfolio since I started on the governor's policy team back in 2021. So your broadband access. So I've been around for quite a while and have been in close communication with the PSC and the broadband team ever since I started, and I still have that portfolio in this role as policy director. So I'll take just a couple of minutes to talk a little bit about how y'all's work and the recommendations that you provide every year inform the governor's work. Obviously, that the task force was created, right at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic in July 2020. And then after the governor was reelected in 2022, he reestablished formally the governor's task force on broadband access, along with a bunch of other task forces. And that was done intentionally. That was because the governor felt like for broadband access and all the other task forces that he reestablished in 2023, the work was not done, and there was a lot more work to do to get Wisconsin connected to high-speed affordable internet. So the governor's task forces in general, he has quite a few of task forces that he's created that are not stat, but those really are the primary sources of guidance and implementation for the governor's policy agenda. That includes the broadband task force for broadband access, other task forces like the task force on climate change, the healthcare workforce task force. There's an AI task force. More recently, the work that y'all do on these task forces are not just busy work for busy people. They really are and implement this policy agenda.
Jacob,
So like I said, yeah.
I'm the staff that gave you the thumbs up that we could hear you. We can hear you, but not as well as we could. It sounds like maybe not just for me, but I'm seeing you're cutting out a little. So if you have your old headphones or a different source, we'd take it.
Okay, is that any better, Alyssa?
I feel like I'm a bad judge. I gave you false information before.
It's muffled, but we can hear them.
Why don't I go get some wired headphones? Give me like 2 seconds. I'll go to my office and get some wired headphones. And then I am guessing those will be a little bit better.
Thank you.
That's my fault for trying to use headphones for a task force meeting. I'll be right back.
Maybe good time to maybe kick it over to Kara.
Sure, I can talk a little bit.
Sing? Do the hold music singing?
Yeah, yeah, this is when I perform. I think one of the main connections that I see between, the task force, us, PSC leadership, and then the governor's office is, when he puts together his biennial budget. And a lot of what we sit down with the task force recommendations, we talk to Alyssa and team and say, what is the task force finding a priority? And from that, what are we seeing as a priority? And that's kind of what we then work with Jacob on, that then gets presented to the governor, that gets put in or doesn't get put in his budget recommendations. So there's a real connection there of, us making sure that it's not just us in our vacuum here at a state agency, which I think can happen at times. But that we have this, very unique group of folks representing different pieces of the broadband puzzle you all are having the discussions, teasing out issues and, rising to the top the things that really matter. And that's where we're able to, kind of package those up and go to the governor's office. And in addition to that, our team here meets with Jacob 3 times a week. So we're also in constant contact if, Alyssa and team are reporting something about NTIA happening with our B dollars or other projects where, like, I think of back with the ACP going away and wanting to do something right away. So we're always kind of getting that over to the governor's office. So I'll kick it back to Jacob a little bit, and then I just have a little bit more when he's done.
Okay, any better?
You can go, Jacob. I was talking about us using the report to get you budget recommendations.
Is this any better? Can y'all hear me?
Very quiet.
Okay, how about that? Any better?
A little bit.
Okay, how about I just talk really loud and I'll
Great.
I'll jump to a different computer after I'm done with my little spiel.
Okay.
I don't have a lot more, but sorry for the interruption, and it's not because of the Wi-Fi in the Capitol. I promise. I was just going to say a couple of additional things. How our office and me as the governor's policy lead on broadband monitors. Kara just said we meet with PSC regularly. I'm also a point for reading the task force reports and tuning into y'all's meetings. So thanks for making that really easy on YouTube and with and then really I wanted to go through kind of 4 examples of how y'all's work and your recommendations in your reports have informed policy and decisions for the governor. So the first example that I can think of right away is a priority and focusing on fiber connections. That was something that had to be developed over time. And when I first came into this role, I don't think that was a set defined expectation. It certainly wasn't in the state broadband grant program. But that is something that came from you all, and it's something that we really have incorporated into now the state broadband grant program via legislation that I'll talk about in a little bit, but also through the BEAD program, although that was kind of, told to us by our Fed friends at the federal level. The second example is just continued investment in the state broadband grant program. I think you all know that the governor has been pushing to get additional state dollars into the state broadband expansion grant program for many years now. $750 million proposal from GPR in the 2023-25 executive budget, and then a $400 million proposal in the most recent 2025 to 2027 biennial budget. For folks who aren't as clued in on the budget process, the governor introduces his budget proposal in February, generally of odd-numbered years. It kind of sets his expectations and his requests for how we should be spending state finances. Then it goes to the legislature, who adds things, takes things out, and then gets sent back to the governor for final signature. Both of those proposals for state dollars into the broadband grant program were taken out by the legislature in the past 2 budget cycles. We totally know that there is significant federal dollars coming down. Knock on wood, Mark, once we get that BEAD project or our BEAD proposal approved. But the need for additional state dollars, despite that federal investment, is really coming from insights and knowledge from you all in talking with PSC staff about gaps that are still going to be there. So that's something that I don't see the governor changing course on anytime in the future, although we'll obviously be very closely monitoring how BEAD rollout goes once we get that approval. The third example is when legislation that impacts broadband and broadband expansion comes to the governor's desk. We can go to y'all and your reports to see whether what's coming to the governor is good policy or bad policy. Act 77 a couple of years ago made some significant updates and improvements, I think we would argue, to the broadband expansion grant program, specifically updating those, what is defined as high-speed internet. The 120 was added in that act. Again, prioritizing fiber, and then prioritizing projects that have a low-cost option. Affordability is a huge focus right now in broadband and elsewhere. So that's just another example of, when a bill comes to the governor's desk, we can go to y'all's reports and say, is there a recommendation about this? Or if it's not specifically to it, tangentially, what do the experts in the field of broadband think about this type of proposal? Then the last example I just wanted to hit on is, I think the multiple recommendations in the task force reports have talked about needing to take a holistic approach. It's not just getting dollars out the door to put fiber in the ground, but it's workforce and it's anchor institutions, connectivity. So we've really tried to incorporate that. I know we attempted to put some workforce investments in our BEAD plan, and then the world got turned upside down, and we had to make some changes to the BEAD plan that made that a little bit harder. But state investments, including in DWD's Fast Forward grants, training grants, can go to that as well. The anchor institution connecting the flexible facilities program funded by ARPA dollars to either build or expand on libraries and community centers that offer that connectivity is really important, especially in rural communities. Whereas you all know, probably more than I do, getting fiber in the ground and connections to rural communities is really difficult. So having those anchor institutions that have the equipment they need and are available, the hours that are needed, that program really helped to do that. And then digital navigation, right? Digital Navigators program that PSC was the lead on with ARPA dollars to help Wisconsinites be able to use the internet and broadband. It's not good enough to have it. We have to be able to use it and afford it. But those digital navigation skills is really part of the picture, and not just getting fiber in the ground. So I'll stop with these two things. I think you all know the stats, but since 2019, the governor's allocated more than $345 million between state and federal investments, and has helped more than 410,000 homes and businesses access new or improved internet. And that is in no small part thanks to the recommendations and policy setting that y'all do in your work. And then I just want to close with a huge thank you and commendation to the PSC staff, who I know it's been a tough couple months with BEAD and having to just totally redo things. I'm sure having y'all's recommendations was helpful in that process, but I don't wish that experience process on any other state teams. But I think the product that we got, despite having to do that in such short notice, was a Herculean effort. But I think we're really proud of the proposal that was put forward. So thanks to the PSC staff, and thanks to y'all as a task force for helping to set that path forward.
Thanks. Okay, I can pick up a couple more things. Thanks, Jacob. So a few more things on the more, PSC decision maker front. Our chair, Summer Strand, her chief of staff, she's also conveniently the delegated commissioner on broadband. So she's been delegated by the other commissioners to make a lot of the other broadband related decisions, kind of in between the big commission decisions. And that's where, we meet with the team and we get a lot of feedback, and, they lay out options. And a lot of times it does come back to the task force and the recommendations as almost like a North Star of what are the priorities? What do we need to get done? What are we trying to do here? And that really informs when we're making those decisions, to what Jacob said, which we're all aware of, is, the NTIA changes of this past year. We've had a quick pivot, but also really try to stay true to what the priorities are of this task force, of the commission, of the governor, because it was, so quick moving, and we all know that we had to make some disappointing changes, but trying to really, really stick to what our, all of our shared priorities are here. I think the work that you've done and the conversations that bubble up at the meetings also informs what we kind of decide to talk about too. Sometimes the PSC, we don't put out a lot of press releases, but we have, and especially on like affordability with the ACP and other issues like that, when we're hearing that that's something that people care about all across the state, and it's going to impact every single community. That's something that we kind of feel like we need to insert ourselves in and talk about. And then when there's items, beyond just the delegated commissioner chair strand, which is going to the 3 commissioners to decide, staff puts together these robust memos and background information, and a lot of that is informed, by the work of you all in the conversations, and kind of also being that guide of what truly matters here. And then obviously there's all the other pieces that go into the record and the public comment. But I think because of the task force's existence, we are able to not constantly be questioning, is this what people really want? So I think that it's just a very helpful relationship that we have, that we're able to pull in that advice as we go. So that's pretty much what I had from the PSC's policy perspective. And talked earlier about how it ties in with the governor's office, but I think we're both happy to take questions from Melissa or anybody else.
Alyssa, do you want to lead us through the question and answers?
Sure, maybe we could start with task force members. So if they have a burning or top of mind question, they could Sal.
Question, as always. What is the difference between a task force and a governor's advisory committee? I was a member of the governor's early childhood advisory committee, and now I'm on the task force, the governor's task force on broadband. What's the difference? Is it similar? Is just a different in the name? How do they operate as policy, advisors?
Yeah, thanks, Sal. It probably depends on the governor, to be frank, but I think for our purposes, there's not a whole lot of difference. I think whether it's a advisory council or a task force, the expectations and then the value of the product are really similar. So I wouldn't say that there's a huge difference, at least in this administration. And I think early in the administration, the governor did a lot of task forces on a lot of different topics, because he was new to the role, and we wanted to hit the ground running with all advancing his policy agenda. And the creation of those have slowed down a little bit now in the second term, as we really knocked out the high priority ones, and y'all continue to do the work.
Thank you.
Other questions top of mind for task force members? I'm wondering if either of you or both of you could talk. We talked about the loss of the ACP and that was a task force priority, and sort of the use of both the media and even some ARPA dollars that went into some navigator programs that kind of help people navigate. But I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about affordability, and particularly either the commission or the governor's office visit. We've talked about it for years, and we're not moving the needle the same way we move the needle on access, where you're talking about 1 million people with better broadband. And I'm wondering if either of you could talk about why that's so hard or why that's so sticky, and what you hope for the future.
I think from the governor's perspective, I think approaching affordability in all areas, not just broadband, is a high priority. The one that comes to mind right away, because it's PSC tangent, is in the last budget, we were able to eliminate the sales and use tax on energy bills that went into effect last month in October. We'd already eliminated it for the winter months, and now we have it for the summer months. So it's just a real tangible example of one thing that I think was really cool that we were able to get done with bipartisan support in the previous most recent budget. For internet expansion, I mean, my perspective is a lot of it's not just getting one service to my water bottle, not getting one ISP to a location, and oftentimes my understanding, especially for like federal grants, is like, okay, that place is now served, they have one provider, but is that really sufficient? And how can you encourage competition? We definitely face some pushback from some ISPs in the way that the PSC approached the low-cost option for BEAD. And we had intentional conversations about, is this something that we need to scale down to encourage more competition or participation, I should say, in the BEAD program? And the governor really felt like the answer to that was no. Like, we have to have a strong requirement for a strong low-cost option. And if ISPs want to compete for BEAD funding for Wisconsin, they need to commit to that. Obviously, that is now changed given the changes that came from NTIA. But that was an intentional conversation. I think the governor believes that for those who really need a low-cost option to be able to afford high-speed broadband, that is an expectation. And now it's built into at least prioritization for the state broadband grant program as well. We still are trying to get some money to that program to actually run a grant round under those new requirements, and we're not going to stop trying.
And I think on that too, it's one of those things that needs to keep being part of the conversation. You all know everyone was so just focused on getting the infrastructure built. And now we're going to see, especially as the BEAD dollars are rolled out, that people are going to say, I can't afford this. And, how are we making sure that is part of the conversation constantly? Because I think that that's something that people are going to realize a little late. And we just need to keep to what Jacob said, affordability is like the hot issue right now and everything, rightfully so. People are really struggling with affording everything under the sun. So how do we make sure that people know that this is um, a, a crucial item that needs to be accessible and affordable, and making that in the forefront of the conversation?
And I would just add again, ACP was a hugely important program. Federal level, we had very high, robust state use of that program. I have family who used it, and when that went away, it is a challenge now for folks. And the governor was loud about trying to get that program extended. And obviously, it is no longer in place. But I think any opportunities at the federal level to advocate for a ACP 2.0 or at the state level, I think the governor would be very interested and open to. So absolutely, if there's legislation that would do that, I think we'd be more than open to talking with folks about something like that.
Thanks. One of the things that's been a theme in the task force is kind of the role of local communities and then also tribal nations. Their sort of agency over what happens in their community, I'm very interested, and there's been some planning grants and some things that have been done, but I'm interested in sort of how the interplay, if you could talk more about the interplay between state government and kind of local government. So when county officials or local communities are upset about broadband or have specific opinions, how does that inform policy? How does the task force role in supporting those communities or listening to those communities kind of impact stuff? Because that's been a strong theme throughout a lot of the task force reports. So if you could talk a little bit about that role of local government and tribal nations, that'd be great.
For the governor's office, we have a full team that their primary role is to work with local elected officials and local governments, as well as tribal nations. And that team works with the policy team very closely, because oftentimes what they are hearing on the ground, and they have staff who work not in Madison, but out in the Fox Valley and the Chippewa Valley and Milwaukee. The issues they're hearing about are often directly related to state agency grant programs or the decisions. So it's great that we have that resource as a team here in the office to talk to folks directly. For tribal nations specifically, obviously the governor has made repairing the state's relationship with tribal nations a really high priority since coming into office in 2019. I know PSC has annual consultations with tribal nations. I'm sure Carrie could talk more about the logistics of that. But one topic that we've heard a lot about, especially as broadband expansion has ramped up, is like sovereign rights on tribal lands. And you're hearing tribes come to us and say, hey, we want to have broadband and fiber laid down, but the company is asking us to waive our sovereign immunity or waive some other rights to build on our land. And that we're not directly, decision makers in that process, but some nations have come to us and just flagged that this is an issue. And PSC has been much more involved in that process with some specific nations. I think that's something that we're going to continue to see, especially once BEAD gets on the ground and fiber starts to get laid a lot quicker, given the timelines that we have under BEAD. So that's one specific issue that we're definitely still tracking.
Yeah, and looking back to, 2019, when the governor took office, one of his top priorities was like Jacob said, that repair of the relationship with tribal governments. And it was an immediate directive to all of the cabinet agencies, like a top priority of yours will be this repair and making consultations matter, but then also instead of it being a box to check once a year, that there's work happening all between. So it's been really fascinating to be on this side, to be at an agency where, I attend our annual consultations and a lot of it, I mean, the tribal leaders have relationships with our staff and talk about what a great job we've been doing and all the conversations and all the work that's been happening in since the last consultation. So that's been really great to see. And I think we do a great job. And then they always, there's always feedback and room for improvement. We hear that too. Local governments, it would be great to get to meet with every local government once a year too, but I don't I don't think that's feasible. But we do try to be in close contact. I know, Mark, you know what's happening in every corner of the state and you know everything and all the different um kind of the local flavor across the state of what's going on and what folks care about. And it's great to have that finger on the pulse of different communities across the state because I know that's a priority of the governor's, which we have taken on too. And that kind of information sharing between state agencies too and the governor's office, where we will have, WEDC call us because they were out in a community and they heard that something going on with broadband and they call us and we help get the answer. So there's just a lot of connecting the dots and synergy from the state of trying to really, not just be here in Madison making decisions, but to be out in communities and hearing that feedback and making those changes.
Yeah, and I think in general, the governor takes the position of how do we empower local governments, not restrict local governments, to make the decisions that are best for their communities. I think part of that is doing our best to make sure the programs that we offer and the services we offer are flexible and can meet the needs of those communities. Obviously, the City of Superior is doing some pretty unique work in the broadband space specifically. I know there are other communities that are looking to do similar or equally creative things to make sure their community has what they need if they feel like they're not being served by what they currently have. So we hear from Mayor Payne a lot, and that is a big focus for him. But how do we serve other communities who want to do similar things and make sure that we're being as flexible as we can?
I'll call a last one. I know you both read the reports every year because you ask staff questions. Can you give task force members any advice for anything you feel like is missing or this is a sticky thing that comes up and I can't believe it's never, but so you could either give us a little bit of task force members, a little bit of feedback or something that you wish we dig in because every year we're feeling like we're making progress but hoping for more. So what's missing from the task force report or what is an area that you feel like this task force could really offer some unique and insightful guidance to policymakers, particularly thinking about 2026 and what it will be like in our state when we issue the next report. They did not know these questions in advance.
Yeah, no.
Just making them up.
One thing that we heard, and this is secondhand, but from legislators who removed the governor's proposal for state dollars for broadband is we heard from legislators that they were told from the workforce that there's just no capacity. So even if you gave additional state dollars for the state broadband grant program, it wouldn't matter because there's not enough workers to do the work. So that's not what we hear from labor, to be frank, but y'all already talk about the critical role of workforce development in the reports. And as we get this BEAD funding out the door, that's going to continue to be really important. So even a heightened focus on workforce and how can we be supporting the electricians and other folks who are doing this work, I think is going to continue to be a really high priority. So I would just call that one out specifically.
And I think that the report itself has everything that's needed. I think maybe next year we have to think creatively about how to cut through when you're getting something in front of the folks in the Capitol, they're dealing with, 60 different issues every day. And how do we, kind of really make sure that the points that we want to pop are popping? And maybe there's some sort of, communications plan that's part of it of presenting this information so that it really does cut through and folks don't miss the point and miss that, we do still need funding, that this is not done. We still do have areas that have the infrastructure, but they can't, afford the monthly payment or the devices. So like, what else can we do to tackle this, and how can we cut through and, get the attention downtown?
Yeah, I mean, I think the last task force report was right after ACP had been ended, and now we're kind of a year in. So is there a way that we can tell a compelling story to show lawmakers that a state level equivalent could be really helpful and probably will be really important in getting everyone connected? If not, what are other affordability strategies in working with ISPs and local communities to make sure it's affordable? I mean, we spend a lot of this time talking about affordability, and I think then it makes a lot of sense to focus a lot of the work for the next report on affordability solutions.
Can I ask a question? Sure. My name is Kwame. I'm with Communication Workers of America. In regards to ACP and affordability for high-speed internet service or broadband, was that something that was in the governor's budget for the state? And if it wasn't ACP, was there some type of contingency or something set up to make sure that affordability for broadband was out there?
So there was no direct equivalent ACP in the governor's proposal this budget. I think with BEAD happening and the fact that we didn't have any state broadband dollars to run the state program, I think for the last couple of years, we've really been forced to focus on BEAD specifically. So I think a lot of the energy and attention was, how do we protect BEAD and protect that low cost option? So essentially putting the requirement and kind of the onus of having affordability options on the ISP who is getting the government dollars through BEAD. The current federal administration got rid of that requirement despite our best efforts. So I think if we are to get additional state dollars for a state broadband grant round, the requirement for low-cost options is now built into that via the bill that we passed a couple of years ago that made the updates to the grant program. But just beyond just getting dollars out the door for the grant program, that's a good incentive lever that the state has, is, hey, if you want dollars from the state to expand broadband, you have to offer these low-cost options. But for folks who already have broadband service, and that is becoming, unaffordable, we've been doing a lot of communication with different part of PSC, with the ISPs to get more visibility on what they offer and make sure that they are advertising that as much as possible. Now that the budget cycle is over, any sort of state level ACP or equivalent would have to start with the legislature. I'm not aware of any examples that have been introduced thus far in this session, and we're rapidly approaching the end of this session. But there is still a couple months for, if a legislator wants to introduce something like that, we would be happy to engage on that.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
I want to say thank you for both your time. I know the task force doesn't get to meet you very much. Staff get to meet the task force and get to meet you both all the time. And so it's really nice to have brought you together and to have you share sort of the impacts of the work of the task force for the last few years and how the reports really impact people who live in the state of Wisconsin and broadband. So Chris, can I pass it back to you?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Again, I've been a lurker for a long time, so it's
Yeah.
really cool to actually participate. So I appreciate the time.
Long time lurker, first time caller, right, Jacob?
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you.
All right. It's always good to know how people think that are looking at the work we all do. So that was interesting. We're going to move on now. Jessica's going to lead us through some group discussions, and Jessica will explain what it is we'll be discussing. Jessica.
Actually, I wondered, Mark, did you want to start with the speakers?
Yep, go ahead. Yep,
Yes.
get us started with those.
All right. There we go. Okay. So we really wanted to honor the knowledge that we have in the room. So we invited some of all of you in to share some of your own experiences. So we're going to start with Lori. We're going to have everyone, we have Lori, we have Sal, and then we have Brett, and then Angie. And we're going to have them share some kind of mini presentations or discussions on their own experience with workforce development, because I'm so glad that Jacob mentioned workforce development, because that is actually going to be our theme that we're going to be focusing on today. It ended up being the top ranked theme that we talked about last month. And so we were going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive. And to start that off, I'm going to have Lori share her experience with workforce development.
All right. Thank you, Jessica. So as I was listening to the previous speakers, I'm going to sound a little bit like a broken record, because several of the things that I have put here in my presentation, they brought up in theirs. So I am Lori Collins. I'm the co-founder and owner of SonicNet, which is a very small regional ISP up in Eagle River. So welcome to the top of the state. We are a very small but efficient staff. We are 18 years old. We started with fixed wireless and then switched over to fiber about 3 years ago. And so now we are only building out fiber in our new areas. We operate in Vilas and Oneida counties, and then also in some communities in Upper Michigan. So that's a little bit of background for you. I was asked to identify 3 challenges that we face with workforce development. And I will kind of start at the very beginning and say that we've been incredibly lucky. When Mark asked me to speak on this topic, I thought, I'm not really sure what I'm going to say, because over the 18 years, we have staff who've been with us for 17 years and 12 years. But we've also learned some things along the way that have helped us retain those staff. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is finding someone who's a good cultural fit for the business. It can be difficult to find applicants who fit our particular small family-like atmosphere and who are very self-motivated, because in a small company, everyone has to be self-motivated. We found that we've been most successful when we've hired people who we already know, who we've known from school or the community. And I'm going to talk just a little bit more about that later, so I'll stop there with that. We also know that it's really imperative for our long-term employees to share their knowledge and skills with our newer and most likely younger employees. And so that all kind of fits in that cultural fit topic. So sometimes that can be hard to find. Number 2 challenge is the ability to hire locally and able to train for the skills that are required. It's probably no shock to any of you that not everybody is cut out for the Northwoods. It is a very, very long winter. And if you haven't grown up in this area or lived here for a long time, it can be a shock. And so if you're bringing someone new into the area, you have to make sure that they're going to not only fit within your company, but they're also going to fit where they're going to be living. And so sometimes that can be a challenge. And I know that's not just a challenge for ISPs, it's a challenge for the medical community, it's a challenge for the schools. So we all kind of share that issue. And then challenge number 3 is financial constraints. And I almost laughed when I was listening before because yes, ISPs are encouraged to lower or maintain their current pricing. Um, we all understand that broadband does need to be affordable. And on the other side are the companies that provide that broadband. We're watching our insurance rates go up, our equipment costs go up, and our wages are rising. And I think the temptation for a company, maybe especially small companies, is to keep the wages down because that's something you can control. But I would argue that that's not the right answer. It is important to pay your staff a good wage, not just a living wage, but a good wage, and to provide them with benefits so that they can maintain a healthy lifestyle, so that they aren't worried about paying their bills and things like that. So that's a challenge. It's a challenge to be able to kind of meet both of those needs at the same time. So now I want to talk about the 4 main successes that we have found over the years. So I already mentioned hiring people that you already know. That's good because you know their work ethic, you know their desire to learn new skills, and you know their team fit. It's better to hire, we have found, it's better to hire for cultural fit and train in-house than to hire just for their skills. You can teach people skills. It's harder to teach people how to work with your customers because that's the most important thing in our business. Number 2 is emphasizing small company benefits. We have a family-like atmosphere. We have an owner attitude and empowerment that we ask of all of our employees. We believe in a strong work-life balance. We believe in paying strong wages and providing benefits to retain our employees. And we provide no-cost benefits such as company potlucks and family beach days. Solution number 3 is cross-training the staff. It's really important in a small company that everyone has multiple skill sets so that if someone is out, because we believe in vacations, that someone else can fill in for them so that the workflow doesn't stop just because somebody is out. And then solution number 4 is working with your local schools, establishing paid internships, which we have done, and providing scholarships at community colleges in IT and broadband programs. And that's something else we have done with Nicolet College. So hopefully you have found this information helpful from the perspective of a small regional provider.
Thank you so much, Lori. We're going to move right into Sal. Sal, you ready for us?
It was very interesting to listen to what Lori had to say from the business perspective. The Latino Academy has been for many years, since it started as a small program at one of the community centers here in Madison. And mostly was to try to get new immigrants, especially Spanish-speaking immigrants, to get the skills so that they could enter the workforce. For example, English as a second language, higher high school education programs, GEDs, and then a little by little growing into creating programs that would help them move into better positions. For example, we do several certifications that we started, forklift training, so they can go into forklift positions. For example, serve safe for those who have wanted to start a restaurant. As you can see, there are a lot of restaurants. If you go to those, especially Latino restaurants, you can see that they have Serve Safe, their certification from the Latino Academy. We have also do OSHA training and certification, very important for the safety and security of the workers as they enter the workforce. So that's how we started. Little by little, we started looking into, the increasing need for workforce that is qualified. As we know, all of you know, in the case of Lori, she has a very small, uh, group of people that she can hire from because they have to have very specific, characteristics, especially for the time of business that she has. But from a general perspective, we know that since 2020, just 5 years ago, our workforce has shrunk by about 2%. Okay, that is a significant, change in our workforce. There's less than 3 million less workers. Also, as you know, we have low unemployment rates, right? Which means that out of 100 jobs available out there, only 60 potential workers. So what the Latino Academy tries to do is create areas that are of need to develop the staff and the workers that have the qualifications and the skills to enter those. So the ones that we usually have been very successful, talking about success, are essentially the CDL training. You know how much is the need for drivers, the transport, all the commercial products in our economy. And so we have a very robust program in CDL, commercial driver's license, CDL-A license, which they can use for almost is the universal one. That we have a hub. We have about 3 or 4 trucks that trains these potential drivers, hands-on training, classroom training, and then we help them get the actual state license. So that's one very big area that we are moving a little bit forward, little by little, with some federal grants. The other one is Contractor Business Accelerator. We have a lot of contractors that do work, and we try to help them, both existing businesses and those who want to start, in a combination of workshops, one-on-one, coaching, practice tools to strengthen their skills, improve their operations, their management skills, and all those things that they need to be able to have a really good contracting opportunity. The other area that is very important that we do is Transportation Business Acceleration, that is very connected to our CDL, obviously. Transportation, we have accelerator where those who already have a transportation business can provide additional tools so that they can increase their sustainability, increase their capacity, talking about capacity in the workforce, planning, operation support, et cetera, et cetera. So in a nutshell, those are the things the Latino Academy is focused right now. So mostly one of the things that we have been doing is not just immigrants, but anybody that needs to be able to move up in their current work or in a new position. We try to support them with all these opportunities so that we can help our workforce not only retain but also grow these positions that are so needed in our country. The challenges that we have as a nonprofit organization that receives some funds, so state and federal, are changes in policy. And those changes can impact significantly who can we train, how can we train them, and the rest of it. Recently, with our CDL program, for example, the federal government decided that only a very specific group of people that have very specific immigrant status, for example, H-2A visas, H-2B visas, E-2B visas, can actually be trained for these CDL programs, for actually driving these trucks or semis. This took out a lot of the people that could have been able to get that, like refugees, for example, like asylum seekers, like our DACA students that probably would be able to go into other positions. So there's challenges, of course, as well, financial, because we have to rely on the support of grants that we have to be applying every year, and make the case that what we are doing is really going to benefit in the long run our workforce. So in a nutshell, that's what the Latino Academy does and has been doing for almost 20 years. Okay.
Thank you so much, Sal. I lost there it is. I lost my agenda. So I was looking for who was next. Thank you so much.
Brett's up.
Yes, Brett. Are you ready?
I'm ready. So
Okay. Excellent. Go ahead.
Well, mine's gonna be real easy because my presentation, so I'm done.
Is it, sorry to interrupt you, Brett, is he really soft for you guys too? Even softer than
Yeah.
Jacob was, so it's really hard to hear you, Brett.
Is that better?
Wow.
Oh, yes, much better. Thank you.
Perfect. For some reason, it switched the microphones on me. So yes, I guess so. You couldn't hear me. I tried to make a joke that Lori gave my presentation, so I'm done. So Angie could take over. But yes, so I'm Brett Schupner. I'm the general manager of Reedsburg Utility Commission. We operate our fiber optic utility as Lightspeed. We're a municipally owned electric and water utility. And then I still claim the only full service fiber optic utility, municipally owned fiber optic utility in the state of Wisconsin, even though Superior's doing stuff and that, but they're not operating their system. They're letting others operate on their system. We actually own the system, and we actually operate and provide the service to our customers all the way from billing to troubleshooting to installs and construction. So our workforce consists of about 12 office staff, 14 linemen and water operators, and 8 fiber optic technicians, and 13 currently on our fiber optic construction crews. We've been doing electric and water since 1894, and we started our fiber optic utility in 1998. So been around a few years. In about I think it was 2015, 2016 timeframe is when we actually started our construction crews to do our own fiber optic construction instead of relying on contractors all the time. So we had to grow our workforce at that point. So we've got a lot of experience in adding employees and that. The average years of service on our electric and water side is about 16 years of service with, I think our longest term employee currently is 31 years. We recently had one retire with 43 years of service here. On our telecom side, since it's a little bit newer, we're about 6 years as our average years of service there. Like Lori said, basically culture and work ethic are our top priorities when it comes to hiring. Local, if we can hire locally, we find that to be much more a long-term and better fit for us. Farming backgrounds are important. Obviously, that brings work ethic into it. They've learned to work from a very young age, usually if they grew up on a farm. And maybe a little bit more common sense and problem solving skills involved with that background too. Work-life balance seems to be very beneficial for our workforce. So a benefit with working at Reedsburg Utility compared to maybe working for a contractor, and that is your home every night. So you're not living out of a suitcase in hotels. So that has been definitely does help when people have families and stuff like that. Some of them are more successful hires have come up through the youth apprenticeship program, working through our local school district. That way we get those young adults, and basically we could train them right from the get-go. And one of our first youth apprentices actually runs our fiber crews at this point. So, another guy that we have hired that started out as a landscaper, took any opportunity you can to advance through promotions or other openings, and now he's our lead technician and our head CO guy. So there's just it kind of comes to, I guess we don't hire, like Lori said, we don't hire based on education, as in did they go elsewhere and get a degree. It's more so, once again, personality, work ethic, and is Reedsburg a good place for them to do they already have roots here, or is it a good place for them to develop their roots? I guess a couple of challenges based on that is keeping that local talent home instead of them heading elsewhere. And I'll use my daughter as an example. She graduated from Reedsburg High School in 2021. She was top 10, finished top 10 in the class. And of some of her friends, I can't remember all the top 10 students in her class, but I can remember 4 of them. Couple things. Those 4 all came up through parochial school, not the elementary school system, which I think made a big difference. But then all 4 of them, unfortunately, went to school out of state. They did not stay in our state. And currently now, my daughter just graduated. She is not employed in the state. And I know 3 of those 4 are not employed in the state either. So we are losing our top talent to other states for some reason. I could specifically talk of 2 of them that the reason they went out of state is because the state of Wisconsin does not offer what some of these students want. And this, now I'm getting really off topic, so you could shut me down anytime you want. But one of my passions is the youth shooting sports. I'm a coach. I've been a coach for quite a few years in the youth shooting sports. There is no state colleges in Wisconsin that offer opportunities for youth going on to higher education to participate in the youth shooting sports. So our top students that are participating in that have to look elsewhere to go participate in that. 2 of the Reedsburg students that I coached actually made the USA shooting team and participated nationally for the USA shooting team. So, when we want to keep some of those kids in the state of Wisconsin, and I'm really narrowing down to one specific thing, but are there other programs like that the state of Wisconsin is not also offering? So sorry if I got off a little bit topic, but I see, once again, keeping local talent and providing what our local talent wants to pursue in the state of Wisconsin, I think is one of the challenges to our workforce.
Thanks so much, Brett. Really appreciate your sharing and everyone sharing so far. And we have one left. Angie, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Great. Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angie Dickinson. I'm a state government affairs manager at TDS Telecom. It's a pleasure to join this conversation today about the future of Wisconsin's broadband infrastructure, and more importantly, the workforce needed to make it all possible. A little bit of background about TDS. TDS has been a proud part of Wisconsin for over 50 years. Headquartered in Dane County, we serve customers in more than 100 communities across the state with reliable high-speed internet. Our commitment goes beyond connecting homes and businesses. We're deeply invested in building the teams that make broadband access a reality for Wisconsinites every day. TDS employs about 3,300 associates nationwide, including about 1,300 here in Wisconsin. Over the past few years, we've made progress in workforce development. Our retention strategies, such as education assistance programs and clear career development pathways, have helped us keep talented people and help them grow. We're proud to say that many of our technicians and managers started in entry-level roles and advanced through progression planning, thanks to robust internal training and leadership development programs. That said, we continue to encounter workforce challenges. As we're all expanding our investment in broadband infrastructure, there is an increasing demand for skilled professionals, particularly those experienced in fiber splicing and outside plant construction. Currently, multiple positions remain unfilled in these vital areas at TDS. Our talent acquisition folks told me, I think currently we have around 55 job postings here in Wisconsin alone, open positions. And attracting qualified applicants remains a persistent difficulty. The challenge extends beyond the numerical shortages. It also encompasses the need for the specialized training and experience essential for these technical roles. Our talent acquisition team works hard to attract new talent with competitive benefits and targeted outreach. However, the pool of candidates with telecom experience, especially in fiber splicing and our outside, what we call our outside plant construction roles, remains limited. Retaining our current staff is vital, but we must also expand the pipeline of new professionals entering our industry. Like my other colleagues on the task force have said, our recommendation is to promote and expand telecom education programs in Wisconsin technical colleges and trade schools. By partnering with these institutions and leveraging grant programs where available, we can create hands-on training opportunities that prepare students for real-world telecom careers. This approach may help address the shortage of some of these more technical roles, ensuring that our workforce keeps pace with the state's broadband goals. And I'll stop there.
All right, awesome. Mark, do we have time to see if anyone had like a question or two?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Do any of the task force members have a question or two for one or all of the little mini presentations you just heard?
Oh, can I ask a question?
Of course. Yeah. Oh, or anyone who just presented. Yeah.
Yes, because I was listening to Sal talk about his program at the academy, and I'm wondering how many students or participants, excuse me, you have in your program.
Oh, in all the programs overall, every year we serve about 2,000 students. So in all the different programs that we have. And by the way, I forgot to say that one of the other programs that we do have is computer and digital literacy. Every single one of the programs that we provide also includes computer literacy. So it's important for the broadband perspective that they understand, because technology is advancing and they need to understand how to increase their skills in that respect. Yeah. And we also offer, like, both Lori was saying and Brett, we do soft skills with all our students as well. How do you engage with your coworkers? How do you engage with the clients that you might encounter? things about being timely and respectful. All those things we also are part of all the programs that we provide. So yeah, I'm glad that they brought that up, and I had forgotten to mention.
I think we have time for maybe one or two. Go ahead, Kwame. I see you on mute. Yep.
Thank you. Salvador, is this a brick and mortar location, or is this like an online type of course or class?
No, it's brick and mortar. We do have, for example, all our trucks are in basically our CDL training occurs in Lake Mills. All our trucks are in a big space. As you can imagine, we need big space for our trucks. And we just acquired a couple of them with the federal grant. So brick and mortar, we do both online and at our headquarters offices here in Madison. So we do both.
My next question was, where are you located? But it's in Madison, Wisconsin.
Yes, it's in Madison. A landmark over on the east side by what would that be? Yeah, we do have a landmark. The place is the place where we have our offices, and we have a lot of our labs there with computers and stuff for those who need to do the computer skills and other training. And then we do it also. We also partner with Madison College on some of the programs that we have. As it was mentioned, we do partner with the Madison College to get the support for some of these more technical kind of skills that they need to acquire. Yes.
Thank you. That's awesome. And can I ask one more question?
Go ahead.
For Angie Dickinson. So I see that you have a need for skilled workers, preferably people who do fiber splicing, etc. When you're advertising for those jobs, how is that being done? And then if you do have an apprenticeship, I guess what organizations are you going through to set up these apprenticeships?
Those are great questions, Kwame. I'm the government affairs person at our company, so not necessarily the expert on talent acquisition. But I know that we do offer some of those programs. I can't tell you specifically how we're promoting them.
Thank you.
Okay, it looks like we might have one more. Okay.
I had a question. So for Lori and for Brett. Lori, you mentioned working with local schools for paid internships, and Brett, you mentioned specifically youth apprenticeships. And I know there's apprenticeships for people outside of high school, but in terms of the youth apprenticeships or the school internships, could you share a little bit more about how your company has been involved with that?
Yeah, Rachel, I can start. We had one Northland Pines student 2 summers ago work for us as an intern. And I worked with his mentor at the high school in terms of kind of the goals for the summer, what we would be teaching him in terms of the people skills, in terms of the actual technical skills, because I realized that from the school side, I'm a former teacher, so I knew from the school side of things that they would need all of that information to track, his progress and so forth. And that was a really successful experience. What it taught the young man was that this was not the career path for him. And that's perfectly fine, right? I mean, that wasn't our goal, but we felt that at least it allowed him to move forward and have a better idea of what kind of work path he wanted to take. So that was our experience a couple of years ago with an intern.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so we work with the Reedsburg High School. They have a youth apprenticeship program where they partner with area businesses, and could be auto mechanics, auto body, service industry, stuff like that. And we've been every year getting a youth apprentice on board for our fiber construction crew. Kind of falls under, I can't remember what the heading is, but it's kind of electrical and utility type related. So, and we've had great success with that. I think all but one that I can think of has become a permanent employee at the utility, and continued down that path. Like I said, our very first one now is our foreman for our construction crew. He does all our scheduling and manages our 3 construction crews. We had another one that was one of the crew leaders for quite a few years, and then he decided he wanted to go into the line worker field, and we just didn't have an opening at the time. So unfortunately, he found employment elsewhere. But excellent employee, and we'll get him back when we got a line opening. But and then our we got a current youth apprentice on right now that's doing really great, and the one before him now we're training as our backup splicer. So I think the contract is with CISA, I believe, that we work with through the school district on that. So yeah, no, it's been a great program for us, and we bring in some young talent that way.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Okay, I'm going to move us on now. So if you had more questions, maybe reach out to people individually, or reach out to Mark, and he can maybe put you in touch if you don't have connection information. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and I'll stop giving you a play-by-play. All right, there we go. Are you? Yep, looks like you're seeing it. All right. So as usual, we have a discussion plan for you, because we want to continue to constantly march us toward having eventual recommendations. And so I'm just going to take us through a very short discussion on, I'll remind us of today we're going to be moving from prioritization of multiple topics, which is what we've been working on since September. And we're going to dive into exploring just one topic. And I've already revealed what that is. It's our strategic partnerships and workforce development topic that we prioritized last time. So I'm going to quickly ground us in the charge of the task force and our overall goals. I do this at every meeting. We'll quickly review last month's ranking and the theme we'll be diving into today and how we got there. And then we're going to get into breakouts and work to get precise on the definitions for the theme. And if we have time, we're going to continue on and generate some ideas for how we can make a difference within this theme. I think we'll have time. I'll move through quickly. So let's get into the first part here. So as a reminder, the task force's charge is to research, develop, and recommend forward-looking policies that address all aspects of broadband, like including access, including affordability and adoption, and to report annually on strategic opportunities and solutions to the governor and legislature. And I go into that in more detail when everyone's in the breakout rooms. So in September, we generated 36 core ideas, which were then grouped into these 5 themes in order to refine the raw ideas from the September meeting into a structure that would allow us to prioritize and then eventually to begin to create goals. So then in October, we then ranked those themes using 2 criteria: future impact and task force leverage, or you could say the leverage one is our ability to influence the outcome. 1 was the most critical or the most leverage, and 5 was the least critical or the least leverage. Which leads us to today's focus, strategic partnerships and workforce development. This theme was the clear winner for leverage, and it ranked in the middle for future impact. Overall, it ranked number 1 when both of those rankings were taken into account, and it's what we're going to dive into today. Again, very appropriate that Jacob mentioned workforce as being some of his advice would be to place some focus on that. Okay, so like usual, we have a breakout room planned for you. So before we go into the breakouts, I want to prime the pump a little bit. So if you can, pull up a little notes app or a little pen and a piece of paper or something so that you can maybe jot down a couple of ideas. So like I said, our top theme that we're going to work through today is strategic partnerships and workforce development. Look at those two terms, strategic partnership and workforce development. For the next 90 seconds or 2 minutes or so, just jot down a note or two on your piece of paper or in an app. And just think about what's the single biggest distinction that defines strategic partnerships, and what's the single most important role or focus area that we should prioritize when it comes to workforce development. Just consider that, and I'll give you a moment. Chris, did you have something you wanted to jump in with? Okay, I'll give you a moment then. All right. Sorry if you're still thinking on that. I'm gonna continue moving us forward. My screen sharing was paused. I was hoping that the questions would stay up so you could see them. So that you could see them while you were thinking, but hopefully you got the gist. Everyone feel good? All right. Mark, do you have the rooms ready? Your facilitators, take that initial thinking that you just did with you into your breakout rooms. Your facilitator is going to guide you through a short discussion to turn those jotted statements into those jotted thoughts into some statements that will ultimately, not, you don't have to do this today, but it will ultimately contribute to a refined definition of this theme. We'll come back to you with that after this meeting, so that you can review a refined definition of the theme. Okay?
Yep, and the facilitators will have the questions with them if you guys forgot about them. So
Yes.
looking at 10 minutes. So see you guys then.
Awesome. Was the screen sharing paused like manually, or did something happen? I just want to.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure. You could try it again.
Okay. When did it stop sharing? Do you know?
It was on the questions.
Oh, it was. So it
Yeah,
stayed. Did the question
That's
stay
if you were
up?
trying to change it. Yeah, yeah. So if you were trying to change it to something else, it was up there.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Because it told me that my screen sharing was paused. I was like, oh no, this whole time the questions haven't been up there. But you're saying they were, so that's good.
I thought I saw them. I mean,
I know you probably
It
have.
disappeared for me partway through.
It did. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you
I
for.
did. I
yeah,
didn't see
when you
any
shut it
message.
off.
Did you shut it off? I didn't see any message that said anything about screen sharing, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had like a yellow bar. I didn't notice it at first, but I had a yellow bar that said your screen sharing has or is paused. Um, so I assumed that you guys, and it sounds like Alyssa that partway through it did cut out. Um,
yes. And as a host, I did not stop your screen sharing
you know,
that I know of, but maybe it's in the settings or
or like maybe if it's been sitting for a bit, there's something weird that's happening where we'll see. Because we're
okay.
sharing now, and I'll just keep watching that now that I know that it could happen.
Yeah, it's definitely checked in the controls. It wasn't a whiteboard. I don't know.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, that's all right. It sounds like it was up for the questions are up for a little bit at least, and so hopefully that's fine. It's totally fine.
What were your thoughts, Jessica, on the presentations, the many presentations? I thought they were very well, good
Yeah,
backgrounds and different sources and
yeah.
similarities.
It was different. There were different perspectives, which was nice.
Yeah, good questions. Same to you, Alyssa, for the presentation. Good questions. I was going to ask the questions on the tribal and county side, and you beat me to it.
Good. Yeah, they did a nice job.
Boy, they did come in with ideas. A lot of times we're waiting for a little bit before the typing starts, but
It was that 3 to 4 minutes of them jotting down, so ready
yeah.
to go.
Yeah, I don't have that planned for the next one because of the way the conversation goes, but I kind of like doing this. I kind of like doing the
If I saw room 3 was writing, that's Michael Brave talking there in room 3. Tamara getting those notes down for them. Rachel in room 2 talking. Kwame in room 4 talking. So it's good getting their
great.
notes. And then Brett in room 1 going.
But the anonymous dinosaur, who's that? I'm just kidding. No, that's great. I'll just quick go over Executive Order 80, like I usually do. So sorry for those of you who watch every single meeting. You're going to hear it again. It's just a quick summary of what the task force is charged with doing. So I won't read through everything, I promise, but I'll hit on some of the main points here. So the task force is charged with researching and recommending forward-looking broadband policies and initiatives that address state broadband goals and needs, promoting the efficient strategic expansion of the broadband facilities and adoption across the state, exploring and developing solutions in collaboration with key broadband stakeholders and experts, identifying and preparing technical or white papers on top priority issues concerning broadband in Wisconsin as necessary, and then, of course, reporting to the governor and legislature annually by June 30th on all of those items that you see there. So I'll kind of pop back over to the discussions. It's a little weird that it's not in the slides this time. We're trying something different. Wanted to make it as easy as possible on those who are taking notes. So it looks like in room 1, talking about partnering with schools to provide opportunity for kids to see what broadband workforce is about. Yep. Learning how to build a career and opportunities in broadband. Maybe working with organizations that are already doing workforce development with youth. College prep programs and strategic partnership means partnering with people for a specific goal. Oh, I see. Okay. So strategic means partnering with people for a specific goal. Okay, I'm just going to pop into room 2. What does a strategic partnership look like for the task force? Is this the right role for the task force? Do we develop strategic partnerships?
That's a good question to bring up there.
Yeah.
As we discuss, between workforce
It's honestly,
development
yeah, it is partly the reason why I designed this definition section for them to look specifically at the term strategic partnership and workforce development, because I wanted to ask that question later, and I wanted to know how they were thinking about it. So the task force could highlight opportunities for partnerships by telling a story. And an example is Wisconsin Broadband Workforce Coalition. All right, I'm going to pop into room 3. Strategic versus standard, helping with future direction and scale versus just cost savings. Hire a partner for single task is simple. Strategic partnership, both partners have skin in the game when it's a strategic partnership. Okay.
And that's something you hear about from ISP skin in the game.
Yeah. They have a mutual interest and a dependence, maybe like an interdependence, vested interest in any given topic, deeper integration. I think I just want to check and see how many minutes has it been already?
2-minute warning.
There's 2-minute warning, and they've not talked about what they mean by workforce development. They're kind of focusing on that first one.
And that's something when they come out, can be discussed openly or go back in for 5 minutes. But up to you.
Yeah, I think we might need to go back in. Maybe we skip the other discussion we had and we need to just do that another time. Or we skip a portion of the other one and we have a shorter discussion. We can do that.
Yep.
Let's see.
Yep, looking at 20 minutes left for discussion and report out.
I know.
Good questions, though. Good discussion today from the presentation, so no worries there.
Well, that's some broad categories here.
They should be coming out now
Okay.
or in 30 more seconds.
Okay. I think for the next discussion, we will just focus on the 2030 one. Hey, welcome back, everyone. Who is room one? Who's gonna share about your conversation?
That would be me.
Christina.
All right, Christy, you guys can see my screen still, right?
Yes.
Yes, it looks like it.
Okay, so what does a strategic partnership look like for the task force? Room one had a lot to say about partnering with schools, like high schools. They really agreed a lot with what our presenters were saying about getting the youth, not just with like the technical schools and the trade schools, but just like youth in general, high schools, so that they can see what the broadband workforce is all about. They can see if they're interested in building a career on that. Um, and then also organizations that are already doing workforce development with youth specifically, but also just in general, like the Latino Academy and the Boys and Girls Club, where they had built a workforce center for the trades in Wisconsin. And then just making a note that there's already a strong college prep program. So getting them, in other areas like high schools. And let's see, yes, and then strategic partnerships means partnering with people for a specific goal. So really looking at employers, because it's a wasted effort without that employer buy-in and partnering. And internships are really important because it helps to see if it's a good culture fit with the employer and the intern as well. There was some discussion on, some people at a young age say, I want to do this program. Then maybe they get an internship or an apprenticeship. Then they realize that's not for me. I don't want to invest all this money and resources into this. I want to do something else. So just, yeah, having opportunities where you can see where the youth and the employers can see if they're a good fit for each other.
Excellent.
And yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to check in that. So when it comes to defining the term strategic partnership, the primary thing was that it really means partnering with people for a specific goal. And then these are really good examples of that. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So as we work toward writing this definition, we will include those as like really good examples and with some good reasons why, because you guys did such a good job of that. But I wanted to make sure that I understood that.
And
Right.
Brett in particular mentioned that specific goal, that it's not worth it to do something if it's not very specific to the goal of the employer that wants to be able to develop good, staff that will stay in the company and that they will retain. So I think Brett brought that up, and that is very important to be very
Thank you.
focused and specific goal.
Yeah. No, thank you. That helps. And that's why I put it underlined under specific too. How about room two? Thanks, guys.
That's Josie.
Josie, are you ready?
I think Brittany's going to report out if that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone from your group can.
Yeah. So, we talked a little bit about the defining of strategic partnership for the task force. And because the task force is going to make recommendations, we spend less time defining what a strategic partnership was, partially because we'll make the recommendation. We don't need to tell people how to build a strategic partnership. I feel like they intrinsically happen. But I'm going to put this in the chat. So the National Skills Coalition did a write-up about Wisconsin and what was happening. They pulled up the example of the Wisconsin Broadband Workforce Coalition, which really bullets out a lot of these items and issues. And I'm sure many of us are aware of the work that they've been doing. And they are really well positioned to be a very strong partner in this workforce piece. So they've been doing a lot of the relationship building already to move forth. And so we just found it really important that that was noted. And if you read the article, which I suggest, they do define who's already part of their coalition and who they're working with. It's a matter of being able to help them put into place a lot of the activities that they want to do.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's actually, I want to go through the other groups, but one of the reasons why I wanted to tease out this definition, because the theme was strategic partnerships and workforce development. I wanted to tease that out because I wasn't sure as the facilitator. I mean, I went through all of the notes and I could tell that the strategic partnerships that were mentioned were all related to workforce development, which is why those two are together. But I thought we really needed to have a good definition of what this theme is before we move forward with trying to come up with any recommendations for it. And so if strategic partnership needs to not be in the language that we use, that's totally fine. And I really appreciate that you guys even talked about that. But let me go through the others and we'll circle back to that thought and that idea. Room 3, who is ready to report from there?
I can report out from room 3. So in discussing the distinction between a strategic partnership and a standard partnership, the folks came up with a really good analogy of where a simple partnership, a basic partnership, is dating. A strategic partnership would be marriage. So generally looking at the length and the depth and the breadth of that relationship, where a strategic partnership is specifically a built relationship, something that's developed, where you're not necessarily attacking a single problem, but there is mutual interest, mutual dependence, and sort of across the board, you're working together and in agreement on very multiple topic areas. And
Awesome.
yeah, and then looking at the some important partnerships, the task force members noted NGOs and large employers as being important to bring to the table. But for small employers, looking at Lori and Brett's share outs earlier, or drawing from that, they held that small employers, small businesses should, particularly in rural communities, should have actually an outsized voice where their points, their concerns, their challenges are lifted up and listened to very, very pointedly, specifically.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And if anyone has questions or clarifications they need, just hold on to that. I'll ask you when we're done here. And then room 4, looks like it might be Matt. Yep.
Yes. So I think I'm probably going to repeat a lot of what we've already heard as far as what is a strategic partnership, an intentional one rather than one that's just a little less defined and planned, having a real end goal in mind, and just having some level of balance and equity in who's benefiting from that partnership. We also kind of circled around how do you find a strategic partnership, thinking about what types of organizations have some component of broadband or different existing trainings that might be able to be kind of piggybacked on or successful in some other way. And then thinking about highest leverage partners, we talked about well-connected nonprofits, and then everybody kind of agreed on workforce investment boards and kind of making sure they understand the need and trying to direct effort and find funds for those specific needs that hopefully are found through strategic partnerships. Yeah, I think that's what we got.
Awesome. First of all, did anyone need any clarifications from anything in the group, any of the rooms, any of the discussions in the rooms? I think that I don't want to just call out room 1 here for doing this, but I think that examples of partnerships are really good ways to illustrate what we're going for here. But I did the same thing with room 4. I wanted to explain that why I highlighted the strategic planned equals planned / defined with an end goal in mind, because I think the others seem like they are really good examples of like what you mean by what you think of a strategic partnership. And so I think that it's a really good way to illustrate where we're going. What about what room 2 said? Let's talk about that. Is this the right role for the task force? Does strategic partnership belong as part of this theme, or is it just something that happens as you're trying to carry out the goals of workforce development? What do you guys think?
My personal thoughts are that strategic partnerships don't happen by accident. You may mature towards one, but there's a conscious effort at some point to make it a strategic partnership and do something different, formalize it. And that's an important step. If it's a strategic partnership, then both parties' strategies are in play, right? They have to have shared that skin in the game thing we talked about before.
And I think I would just add that we were kind of talking about that in the context of this is a group that largely on the day-to-day level makes policy recommendations or makes recommendations. So like, is the task force actually the group that's developing partnerships, or is the role for us to define who should be partners and then they go be partners? Does that make sense?
And we also brought up the task force in the report can highlight examples of partnerships that are happening or the opportunities, maybe even from other states that are seen, or if there's examples that are happening on the ground. But the task force entering into a strategic partnership doesn't feel like the right language.
Right. And that's kind of what I was wondering is, and if it is the right language, that's great. That's why I would like to define it if it is. But, are we just talking about workforce development is the theme, or is it strategic partnerships and workforce development?
I think ultimately it is both, Jessica.
I'm good with leaving it.
Yeah, I agree with Bob. I think they're interconnected. So for workforce development, they have to be strategic. Otherwise, like as mentioned before, might not result in the right outcomes that we want. So it has to be connected.
And so when we do get to creating recommendations, those recommendations can be about the creation or the pursuing of strategic partnerships as part of this workforce development element. How does that feel to you guys? Do you feel settled with that, or is there someone that feels strongly that we should not connect the two? Sorry, Sal.
My question still, and you mentioned it before, is what is the role of the task force in strategic partnerships? Do we have a role or not? Right? And I'm not sure. we can recommend that strategic partnerships occur between, the employers and the, need for workforce, and that something like that should occur. But I don't know whether we have a role as a task force in actually doing that, other than advice on how to connect organizations or employers in a strategic way for development of our workforce. So it's kind of like difficult to determine. I don't think we have a role per se other than advice.
I think it's facilitating. I think that's what you're saying.
Facility, exactly. That's the word.
We're the matchmaker, right? We identify the people that could have a good strategic
Right.
partnership and make that recommendation.
Exactly. That's exactly where I was going. Thank you, Chris. You
Are
got
we
the right.
still, I'm sorry, are we still partnering with the Wisconsin Workforce Development Task Force that's out there on broadband? I know that we used to be, there was the guy that's chairing the workforce development on broadband. He used to be on the committee. Or he used to be at least, he used to join our meetings. At least. I think I have his email address or his name. If you can just hold on for a brief moment, I'll see if I can find it.
Thank you, Kwame. That's a great point.
You're welcome.
Right.
There was the AI Workforce Development Task Force, and they presented last year, but I believe they have not met since last July, or at least I saw last was their meeting. But maybe you might know more.
I think it's the Wisconsin Broadband Workforce Coalition that we're talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think, Kwame, you're right. I remember seeing him, because it's a public meeting attending. I haven't talked to him for a little bit.
Yeah, me either. I think the last time we met, I think Mark might be right. It's like July or something like that. The last time, I think. Let me see if I can find his name, though.
So one thing, we have just 1 minute left before I'm going to turn it over to Chris. But one thing that is, and I knew that this discussion was going to be the most difficult, this definition of really trying to tease out, what do we mean by strategic partnerships and workforce development? One thing we didn't get to is, what do we mean by workforce development? I know that it should seem obvious, but we've heard about workforce development related to infrastructure, the actual broadband infrastructure. We've heard about workforce development related to general like workforce development and skill building. What do we mean by it when we're talking about this? Are we talking about two different kinds of goals here? Or are we talking about, what are we talking about with workforce development and we have 30 seconds left to to figure this out. No, I'm kidding. We'll find other ways to get your input on this. But does anyone have any immediate thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. Workforce development is in a couple of different areas. We heard from Brett that it is finding the right match for people doing the work. It is finding broadband availability as creating a tool for workforce development, and a lot of things in between. I'll be brief.
Yeah, and
so we want to make recommendations on all those things, and that's totally fine. That's why I'm trying to refine this a little. Lori, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I just kind of listed. So to me, workforce development is identifying, mentoring, training, which are kind of two different things, retaining and advancing broadband employees.
So this is mostly about broadband employees?
In our context, it is.
In your context, okay.
But I'm suggesting that it's also about the availability of broadband, of high quality broadband, being an engine for workforce development by the greater community, and perhaps even stimulating workforces or employment that didn't exist there beforehand.
Okay, great point. Good point.
Let's leave it there. I want to turn it back over to Chris. We've already talked about some ideas we might have to we might have to instigate, is that the right word? We might have to start asking for homework again. I know we used to ask for it and we stopped, but I promise we'll make it as easy as possible on you, like super
Yes.
easy. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Chris. Thank you all so much for your work.
Well, and I'm going to be that student that says, I just sent you an email with my thoughts, so my homework is done. And I'm that guy. I'm going to remind you to assign homework, and everybody's going to groan, right?
As long as you do the little red exclamation point so I can find it easier later.
Oh, then there's no hope you're going to find it.
Oh, I saw it.
I'll find it.
I saw it. It's lengthy, but good.
Well, that was some good discussion. Thank you, everybody, for your participation today. I'll hand it back over to Mark for some next steps, including an announcement about next month's meeting. Mark.
All right, thanks. As Chris said earlier, there's no December meeting. So the next task force meeting date, we're looking at January 21st at 1 p.m. Just a reminder, register on the Zoom link, on the invite, or on the public agenda. If you see a Microsoft Teams, that is not the link. So, but I'll put that again in the invite and then in the public agenda. So register, please. And with that, stay tuned for that future January agenda. Chris, I'll hand it back to you for final words and adjournment, and happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. And for what it's worth, I forgot what I was just going to say. I just had a brain evaporation. In any event, thank you again for the time today. Have a great holiday. It's hard to believe that we're already saying Thanksgiving next week and Christmas be soon after that. So enjoy your holidays, be safe. We look forward to seeing you here in January on the 21st.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Viva. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Bye.